Alright. Hey everybody. Mind Circus Way here with you. Putting together this video here to explain a little technique I've been using on the last few avatars that I made, and think it might be valuable to some people, so I thought I'd get into it here. Let me pull up an example of what I'm talking about here, and it's this one that I made a couple nights ago. And one of the things that you'll notice about this is that the color and light values match very well with this background. One of the reasons for that is I actually made this thing a fair bit differently than I make most avatars, and I'm going to explain this technique. First thing I'm going to do here is I'm just going to show you the model layer. Now the model is actually this picture right here, and if you look, the color values are very different. And all I've really done is taken this picture and paint white around the edges. I haven't actually deleted anything. I went in here with a white paintbrush, and you're going to see this in action here in a few minutes. So there's that. And then the other thing we'll take a look at is this background layer, and if we look at my layer palette here, we can see my background actually takes place in front of my model. So let me pull up this background layer here and set it for normal, and you can see there's a very minimal amount of erasing in here and some kind of weird edges that I've done, and I'm going to explain all this in a few minutes and it'll all start to make some sense. So let me go ahead and close this image without saving it and start a new one. And what I'm going to do here is give myself my 2000 by 2000 image with my black background layer. The next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab the image that I wanted to use, and I'll open this first, and it's right here. So we'll copy this, and then the next thing we'll do is paste that in here. Now there's a lot I really like about this image, but I thought the whole Texas tornado thing was a little bit cliche. So really what I thought was it would be kind of interesting to kind of put this sorrowful face over something a little more interesting, and you'll understand why here in a few moments. So what I'm going to actually do here at this point is I'm going to grab my model layer, and I'm going to do, just like you saw in the last one, I'm actually going to paint the background. Now in this case, I'm going to make this background, okay, kind of a color that's close to the edge of the hair. The reason why is it'll make some more pleasing blends later on, and again, you'll understand this in a few moments. It's kind of one of those mystery effects that comes together pretty quick though. So what I'm doing here, as you can see, is I'm just kind of painting around the edges, and I don't have to be super careful about this. You'll see this here in a few moments. I'm going to, at this point, kind of rush it and make my brush real big. In the real world, I would probably take a little more time to get these edges a little closer, but as you're going to see, it wouldn't make that much of a difference. The other thing I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be building out these edges a fair bit, just in the interest of an avatar-sized thing. I want to have plenty of this area to play around with, and you'll understand what I'm saying here in a few minutes. So there we kind of have it. Alright, again, I might go over these edges a little closer, but not that much closer. You'll see when I put this effect down that it isn't super necessary to do that. Okay, so there I have my model layer, and the next thing I'm going to do is grab my background image. Now I'll copy this image, and I'll paste it over as a new layer, and again, I'm pasting this quote-unquote background on top of my model layer. The next thing I'm going to do before I take another step is, dude, I really hate this airplane in the background, and while it may end up covered by my model the way I have it planned out, in the real world I would grab a decently sized clone brush and I would just kind of start cloning that out a little bit. And just, I'm not going to get super kind of careful about it, but again, I do want to make sure that I'm taking the time to do it right. Let's see that. With a good clone brush, always, get your push brush involved in these areas that kind of get a little out of hand. And there we go. The plane's gone for the moment, and I think that'll be good enough. If I have to go back in later, I'll do it. The next thing I'm going to do before I take another step here is I'm going to grab one of the lighter colors on this image as the primary color for my paintbrush. Okay, so I'm going to grab maybe this light area in here. Now it's important that we grab this color at this point. You'll understand why here in a minute. So, I have now said you'll understand why here in a minute about 17 times. Let's put it all together. This background image here at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to set this for hard light, and you'll see almost immediately what I've been building for. When I take my model and kind of arrange her in here, this is almost exactly what I was looking for. Okay? I'm just going to try and arrange these a little better. I wanted her kind of over the missing part there, so there we go. And that really was kind of the effect I was looking for. Now, there's a couple of things about where we're at here at this point. Number one is our natural instinct at this point is to say, oh, that's really pretty. Let me grab my eraser brush and start erasing the areas of the quote-unquote background, which is really a foreground, over her. Now, that does work, okay? But what we lose is a lot of the things that bring this thing together in terms of color and tone. Right? Now she sticks out like a sore thumb. So, rather than go ahead and erase at this point, we grabbed that color before on our paintbrush, and we can actually paint her like this. Now, that color I grabbed was probably the wrong one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to desaturate and darken that, and let's see what we get now. There we go. Now I'm taking out all those areas that were kind of creating a problem. And there, that's the effect I was looking for. So basically I've placed her into this image using the same kind of color values as the image behind it. If I go ahead and I kind of match the sharpen values of the Hollywood sign layer, well, I'll just hit sharpen more. You can see this really does start to come together. Now we can see some of these edges around her, and we'll probably want to go ahead and paint those out, but we're starting to see how this brings things together. Now, that said, let me show you one other way to cope with this issue here. We're back at this point where we have kind of our background, which is actually a foreground, coming over our model. And let's instead go to our push brush and start pushing things around and creating our highlights more naturally. So all we're doing right now is kind of softening out that color, and I'll show you exactly this here in a moment. So we can actually just start pushing these highlights out, and as you can see, it starts to come together in a more natural kind of fashion. And there we have it. So that's really it. I just wanted to show you guys this technique pretty quickly. I've been using it a lot, and I find that it does kind of help when it comes to color matching and blending and putting something into somewhere else. And again, if we took the time to play around with the original model image here, let's just really quickly grab a smaller brush, paint in some of that gray from before, and you'll see it doesn't take much here. Okay. And the beautiful thing is we don't really have to get right in there on everything, because the image over it is going to start to create those highlights and everything that we really want. Again, I'll just kind of finish this up really quickly and give it a last little demo. And let's go ahead and do that. And there it is. So you can start to understand how this comes together. These areas here, I'll hit with my push brush just to start softening out that edge there. And there we have it. So there we go. I hope that was a little bit valuable to you guys. I'm going to be using this technique a fair bit lately, over the next little bit, I hope.